The laptop screen flickered back to life under my hands. Another resurrection in a day full of them. People bring me their broken machines thinking I'm some kind of digital surgeon, but really I'm just a janitor cleaning up after their carelessness. They spill coffee on keyboards, drop phones in toilets, click on every suspicious link that promises easy money. Then they sit in my repair shop, fidgeting while I work, pretending their devices don't contain every secret they've ever kept. My name is Hale Trenwick, and I fix things for a living. Computers mostly, but also phones, tablets, and the occasional smart TV that someone managed to brick with a firmware update. My shop sits on the corner of 5th and Madison, squeezed between a coffee place that charges $8 for what used to cost $2 and a boutique that sells scarves for more than I make in a week. The neighborhood's been gentrifying around me for years, but my lease is locked in until 2030, so I get to watch the transformation from the inside. The bell above my door chimed at 6:30, half an hour after I'd flipped the sign to closed. I looked up from the laptop expecting to see someone who couldn't read, but instead found Laura Vartman standing in my doorway. Laura was my wife's best friend, had been since college, and in all the years I'd known her, she'd never once stepped foot in my shop. "We're closed," I said, though something in her expression told me she already knew that. "I need to show you something, Hale." Her voice was steady, controlled, like she'd rehearsed this conversation. "About Rory." My wife's name hung in the air between us. Laura stepped inside and locked the door behind her, then pulled out her phone. No small talk, no apologies for the intrusion. She opened a folder labeled with dates going back 6 months. "She's been seeing Evan Rusk," Laura said, setting the phone on my workbench. "Every Tuesday and Thursday, sometimes Saturdays. She told you those were client dinners." The screen showed a calendar, meticulously organized. Color-coded entries, location tags, even budget allocations for hotels and restaurants. Rory had always been thorough in her work as a PR executive, but I'd never seen her apply that same precision to deception. "How long have you known?" I asked. 2 months. I kept hoping she'd end it. Laura scrolled through screenshots, text message threads, GPS locations. Everything documented with the kind of attention to detail that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. "She's planning to leave you, Hale, after she gets the promotion at work. She wants to make sure she's financially secure first." I studied the evidence, noting timestamps and cross-references. Rory had been busy. Hotel check-ins lined up perfectly with her supposed business meetings, credit card charges at restaurants I'd never heard of, all on days she claimed to be working late. Even social media posts had been carefully curated to maintain the illusion of a devoted wife building her career. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. "Because you deserve to know, and because Rory's been using our friendship as cover. Half these lies involve me somehow." Laura's jaw tightened. She told Evan I knew about the affair and approved. She's been making me complicit in her betrayal without my consent. The laptop I'd been repairing hummed quietly on the bench beside us, its fan cycling through its startup routine, fixed, ready to serve its owner faithfully until the next inevitable breakdown. I wished marriages came with diagnostic tools and replacement parts. "Thank you," I said, handing back her phone. "I appreciate you telling me." Laura studied my face, probably expecting more reaction. Anger, tears, demands for additional details. But I'd learned long ago that emotional responses rarely solved technical problems, and this felt very much like a technical problem now. Input received, data processed, solution pending. "That's it?" she asked. "What else would you like me to say?" "I don't know. Something? Anything." She shook her head. "Rory's my oldest friend, but what she's doing is wrong. You're a good man, Hale. You don't deserve this." After she left, I sat alone in my shop, surrounded by broken machines and functioning equipment. The laptop I'd repaired earlier would go home to its owner tomorrow, who would probably thank me and promise to be more careful with their morning coffee. But they wouldn't be more careful, because people never learned from their mistakes until the consequences became unavoidable. I pulled out my own laptop and opened a new document. Divorce papers first, I decided. Clean, efficient, no-fault dissolution. I'd learned enough about documentation from years of warranty claims and insurance disputes. Everything needed to be properly recorded, time-stamped, and filed. Then I opened another document and began typing a different kind of list. Rory's social media accounts, her professional network, the community boards and neighborhood apps she used to build her reputation in our city. She'd always said visibility was everything in PR. Time to test that theory. The next morning arrived gray and ordinary, like every other Thursday in our converted loft. Rory moved through her routine with practiced efficiency, shower, coffee, outfit selection, that took longer than my entire morning preparation. She kissed my cheek before leaving, the same gesture she'd performed for 8 years of marriage, now revealed as performance art. "Late meeting tonight," she said, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. "Don't wait up." "Client dinner?" I asked. "Strategy session with the Morrison account team. Could run until midnight." The lie rolled off her tongue, smooth as silk. According to Laura's evidence, tonight was scheduled for Hotel Meridian, room service, and Evan Rusk's undivided attention. "Sounds important," I said. After she left, I spent an hour reviewing the divorce paperwork I'd drafted. Standard no-fault dissolution, equitable distribution of assets, no alimony requests, clean and professional. Our joint accounts had been quietly separated over the past week, automated transfers moving my direct deposits to a new bank Rory didn't know about. She'd notice eventually, but by then the legal framework would already be in place. My shop opened at 9, and the usual parade of technological disasters began immediately. Frankie, my part-time assistant, arrived with coffee and gossip about his night classes at the community college. At 19, he still believed the world operated on fair principles and honest communication. I envied him that optimism. "Mrs. Patterson's here about her tablet," he announced, nodding toward the waiting area where an elderly woman clutched a cracked iPad like a wounded pet. "Tell her it'll be ready by noon," I said, "and start working on the Morrison laptop. Password recovery." The Morrison laptop belonged to Rory's biggest client, a construction company that specialized in municipal contracts. She'd brought it home last week, claiming their IT department was overwhelmed. I'd offered to help, purely out of professional courtesy, and she'd accepted. The password recovery had taken 15 minutes. The browsing history review had taken considerably longer. Turned out Morrison Construction's owner, James Morrison, had been researching PR firms specializing in crisis management, specifically firms that handled embezzlement scandals and federal contract violations. He'd also been corresponding with attorneys who specialized in corporate fraud defense. Interesting context for Rory's sudden desire for financial security. At lunch, I walked 3 blocks to Mitch's bar, a neighborhood institution that served decent burgers and better gossip. Mitch had owned the place for 20 years and knew everyone's business within a 6-block radius. He also knew how to listen without appearing too interested, a skill that made his establishment popular with people who needed to talk. "Hale," he called out as I claimed a corner booth. "Usual." "Actually, make it a whiskey. Been a strange week." Mitch raised an eyebrow but poured the drink without comment. The lunch crowd was typical for a Thursday. Construction workers, office people on extended breaks, and a few regulars who treated the bar as their personal social club. "Everything okay at home?" Mitch asked, wiping down the bar with practiced efficiency. "Rory's been working a lot lately. Big promotion coming up at her firm." I took a sip of whiskey and let it burn. Success has its price, I guess. "PR business is competitive," agreed Tom Bradley, a regular who worked for the city planning department. "My wife knows some of those folks. They work crazy hours." "Especially the ambitious ones," added Janet Morrison, no relation to the construction company despite the name. "Some of them will do anything to get ahead." I nodded and finished my drink, leaving a generous tip. Conversations like this had a way of spreading through the neighborhood, gathering details and interpretations as they moved from person to person. By evening, at least a dozen people would know that Hale Trenwick seemed concerned about his wife's demanding work schedule. Back at the shop, I spent the afternoon assembling my video project. Nothing dramatic or invasive, just publicly available information organized chronologically. Rory's social media posts provided most of the material. Check-ins at restaurants, conference photos, professional networking events. All time-stamped and geotagged, thanks to her meticulous personal branding strategy. The interesting part was cross-referencing those posts with her actual calendar entries, the ones Lara had documented. Every client dinner that was actually a hotel rendezvous. Every networking event that coincided with Evan's travel schedule. Every late meeting that ended at establishments Rory had never mentioned visiting. The video ran 8 minutes and contained no narration, no accusations, no editorial commentary. Just dates, locations, and images, arranged in sequence. Anyone familiar with Rory's public claims about her schedule would notice the discrepancies immediately. Anyone unfamiliar would simply see a successful professional woman building her career through strategic relationship management. Context, as they say, is everything. At 5:30, I uploaded the video to a private server and scheduled its release for Saturday morning at 9 a.m. The distribution list included every neighborhood social media group, community board, and local networking platform Rory had ever used to promote herself or her business. Her professional reputation had been built on visibility and community engagement. Time to give the community something engaging to discuss. Rory came home at 12:15, moving quietly through our apartment like she was afraid of waking me. I heard her shower, brush her teeth, slip into bed beside me. She smelled like expensive hotel soap and guilt. "How was the meeting?" I asked into the darkness. Productive, she whispered. Morrison account is moving forward. Sorry I'm so late. No problem. Success has its price. She was quiet for a long moment. What do you mean? Nothing. Just something someone said at lunch today. I rolled over, presenting my back to her. Get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. But I didn't sleep. Instead, I lay awake calculating timelines and consequences, planning the next phase of my technical solution to a very personal problem. Rory had always been better at public relations than I was, but she'd made one crucial error in her strategic planning. She'd underestimated her audience. Saturday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth and clear skies, the kind of weather that brought people outdoors and made them check their phones more frequently. I was awake by 6, coffee brewing while Rory slept off her late night with the Morrison account team. According to her calendar, today was reserved for wedding planning with her cousin Janitor, a convenient fiction that would actually be spent apartment hunting with Evan. At 8:30, I received a text from the automated scheduling system confirming successful upload to all designated platforms. The video was live, spreading through digital networks like water finding its level. I poured a second cup of coffee and waited. The first response came at 9:15. A comment on the Riverside Neighborhood Forum from Patricia Wells, who owned the boutique next to my shop. Isn't this the same woman who spoke at the business council meeting about work-life balance? By 9:30, the video had been shared to 4 additional community groups. Comments were polite but pointed, the kind of carefully worded observations that characterize neighborhood social media. People recognized the locations, cross-referenced the dates, drew their own conclusions. Rory emerged from the bedroom at 10, already dressed for her fictional cousin meeting. She moved through her morning routine with characteristic efficiency, checking her phone while the coffee finished brewing. Any interesting news today? I asked. Just work stuff, you know how it is. She didn't look up from her screen, thumbs moving rapidly across the keyboard. I'll be out most of the day with Janitor. Wedding planning is exhausting, but someone has to help her navigate the vendor selection process. Generous of you to sacrifice your Saturday. That's what family is for. She kissed my forehead, the same practiced gesture as always. Don't wait up tonight. We might make a whole day of it. After she left, I walked to my shop and spent the morning working on actual repairs while monitoring the digital response to my video project. The comments were multiplying steadily, spreading beyond the original neighborhood groups into professional networks and social circles. People were sharing screenshots, asking questions, connecting dots. At noon, Frankie burst through the door with the enthusiasm of someone who discovered treasure. Boss, you have to see this, he said, pulling out his phone. There's this crazy video making the rounds about some PR lady who's been lying about her work schedule. People are going nuts, trying to figure out who she is. Sounds like typical internet drama, I said, not looking up from the motherboard I was examining. But here's the weird part. I think I recognize some of the places in the video. That restaurant where she had the client dinner, that's Chez Laurent, where my girlfriend works. And she says they don't even do business meetings there. It's strictly a romantic dining establishment. I set down my screwdriver and gave Frankie my full attention. What else does your girlfriend say? That the woman in the video has been coming in regularly for months, always with the same guy, always acting like they were celebrating something special, anniversary dinners, promotion parties, that kind of thing. But if she was really having business meetings, why would she be toasting with champagne and holding hands across the table? The beauty of crowdsourced investigation was its organic nature. People wanted to solve puzzles, especially puzzles that involved potential deception. They shared information freely, compared notes, built collective understanding without any central coordination. By 2 o'clock, someone had identified Evan Rusk from his appearance in several restaurant photos. His LinkedIn profile provided additional context. Investment banker, recently divorced, known for his expensive tastes and aggressive networking style. The kind of man who collected relationships like stock options. By 3 o'clock, someone else had connected Rory's professional profile to her social media accounts, creating a comprehensive timeline of her public claims versus her actual activities. The discrepancies were becoming impossible to ignore. My phone rang at 3:30. Rory's name appeared on the screen, probably calling from whatever apartment she and Evan were touring. Hale, I need you to do something for me, she said without preamble. There's some kind of internet nonsense circulating with my photo in it. Can you make it disappear? What kind of nonsense? Someone made a video using pictures from my social media accounts. It's making me look bad professionally. You're good with computers. Can't you just delete it somehow? I leaned back in my chair, watching Frankie pretend not to listen while he organized inventory. I'd need to see the video first. Where is it posted? Everywhere. The neighborhood groups, the business networks, even the city planning forum. It's like someone targeted every platform I've ever used. Sounds sophisticated, professional even. Can you fix it or not? I can look into it, I said. But these things tend to spread pretty quickly once they're out there. Might be better to address the underlying concerns instead of trying to suppress the information. There was a long pause. What underlying concerns? Well, if people are questioning your schedule accuracy, maybe you could clarify the discrepancies, provide context for the timeline issues they're discussing. Another pause, longer this time. I'll call you back. She didn't call back. Instead, she came home at 6 o'clock, earlier than she'd been home on a Saturday in months. She found me in our kitchen, preparing dinner for one. We need to talk, she said. About what? You know about what? She set her purse on the counter with more force than necessary. That video didn't just happen by accident. Someone with technical skills created it specifically to damage my reputation. I continued chopping vegetables, keeping my hands busy while my mind processed her approach. She was treating this as a professional crisis, something to be managed through strategic communication and damage control. Have you considered that maybe your reputation is being damaged by your actual behavior rather than someone's documentation of it? I asked. My behavior? The timeline discrepancies people are discussing, the questions about your work schedule accuracy, the concerns about professional integrity. Her face flushed red. Are you seriously going to stand there and lecture me about professional integrity? You fix broken computers for a living. I do, and when I tell someone their computer will be ready on Tuesday, it's ready on Tuesday. When I say a repair will cost $50, it costs $50. When I promise confidentiality, I maintain confidentiality. I set down the knife and looked at her directly. People trust me because I do what I say I'm going to do. This is about Evan, isn't it? This is about honesty, Rory. Something you might want to consider as a crisis management strategy. She stared at me for a long moment, probably calculating her next move. In her professional life, she specialized in controlling narratives and managing public perception. But this wasn't her professional life anymore. I want to know who made that video, she said finally. So do a lot of people, apparently. The comments sections are full of speculation. I'm serious, Hale. Someone violated my privacy and used my personal information to embarrass me publicly. That's not legal. Actually, it probably is legal, since all the information appears to be from public sources. Social media posts, business listings, restaurant check-ins, nothing private about any of it. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. For the first time in years, Rory Trenwick was speechless. I returned to my vegetable preparation, letting the silence stretch between us. Outside our loft windows, the city continued its Saturday evening routine, unaware that one of its most visible residents was discovering the difference between managing perception and managing reality. Sunday morning brought rain and consequences in equal measure. I woke to find Rory already dressed and pacing our living room while speaking rapidly into her phone. Her side of the conversation consisted mainly of damage control phrases, temporary misunderstanding, malicious targeting, legal options being explored. She ended the call and turned to me with the expression she usually reserved for particularly challenging clients. That was my boss, she said. 3 potential clients have requested different representation after seeing that video. They're concerned about associating with someone who has credibility issues. Maybe you should explain the situation to them. Explain what, exactly? That someone with a personal grudge decided to destroy my professional reputation using selectively edited social media posts? I poured coffee and considered her framing of the situation. Selective editing implied manipulation of context, but the video contained no editorial commentary whatsoever, just chronological presentation of publicly available information. You could start by explaining the timeline discrepancies, I suggested. People seem confused about when you were where, doing what with whom. Her eyes narrowed. You made that video, didn't you? What makes you think that? Because you're the only person I know with both the technical skills and the motivation to do something this calculated. She moved closer, switching to her courtroom voice. You've been different lately, distant, cold, and now suddenly there's a perfectly crafted character assassination circulating through every network I've ever used. I sipped my coffee and watched rain streak down our windows. If I had made such a video, what would you want to do about it? I'd want to know why my husband decided to destroy my career instead of talking to me about whatever's bothering him. And if your husband had discovered that you've been conducting an affair for 6 months while planning to leave him after securing your next promotion? The question hung in the air like smoke. Rory's expression shifted through several phases: surprise, calculation, defiance, and finally something resembling resignation. How long have you known? She asked. Long enough to prepare appropriately. Prepare for what? I walked to our home office and returned with a manila envelope, setting it on the kitchen counter between us. Divorce papers. No-fault dissolution, equitable distribution of assets. I've already separated our finances and secured independent legal representation. She opened the envelope with trembling fingers, scanning the documents inside. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about legal matters, just like I'm always serious about professional commitments and personal promises. Hale, we can work this out. Whatever you think you know about Evan and me, it's not what it looks like. It looks like a 6-month affair documented through hotel receipts, restaurant charges, and a shared calendar system that coordinates your deception down to 15-minute intervals. I refilled my coffee cup, keeping my voice level and factual. It looks like financial planning for a post-divorce lifestyle and strategic career positioning to ensure economic independence. Who told you about the calendar? Does it matter? She sank into a chair, still holding the divorce papers. Laura. It had to be Laura. She's the only one who knew about the organizational system. The organizational system. I needed to keep track of everything. Schedules, expenses, logistics. You know how I am about planning. I almost laughed. Even facing the collapse of her marriage, Rory was defending her administrative efficiency. You planned our divorce with the same attention to detail most people reserve for wedding arrangements. I was trying to minimize the damage to everyone involved. How thoughtful. My phone buzzed with a text message from Frankie. Boss, you need to see the neighborhood forum. Things are getting crazy. I checked the community discussion threads and found them buzzing with additional discoveries. Someone had identified Evan's apartment building from background details and restaurant photos. Someone else had cross-referenced his divorce timeline with Rory's social media activity. The crowdsourced investigation was expanding beyond simple timeline verification into comprehensive relationship archaeology. It's getting worse, I told Rory, showing her the phone screen. People are connecting more dots, finding more patterns. She scrolled through the comments, her face growing paler with each revelation. They're treating this like entertainment, like my life is some kind of soap opera for their amusement. You built your professional reputation on public visibility and community engagement. This is just visibility and engagement you didn't plan for. This is harassment. This is consequences. She set down the phone and looked at me with something approaching desperation. What do you want, Hale? Money? The apartment? I'll sign whatever you want me to sign, but you have to make this stop. I can't make it stop. Information wants to be free, especially information that reveals deception in trusted community members. Then what's the point of all this? Revenge? Public humiliation? I considered her question while rain continued drumming against our windows. The point is truth, Rory. You spent 6 months lying to me, to your friends, to your professional network. You created an elaborate fiction about who you were and what you were doing. The video just provides factual context for people who believed that fiction. And now, my career is destroyed. Your career is experiencing market correction based on accurate information about your professional reliability. She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. When did you become so cold? When I realized my wife was treating our marriage like a business transaction to be optimized for her benefit. The conversation was interrupted by her phone ringing. She glanced at the screen and declined the call, but it rang again immediately. Evan? I asked. He's panicking, wants to meet somewhere private to discuss damage control strategies. Sounds romantic. This isn't funny, Hale. No, it's not. It's justice. She gathered the divorce papers and her purse, moving toward the door with quick, agitated steps. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to find a way to undo whatever you've done and restore my reputation. Good luck with that. After she left, I spent the rest of Sunday monitoring the digital response to my video project. The story was spreading beyond neighborhood networks into citywide social media, local business groups, even professional organizations. People were sharing it not because they knew Rory personally, but because it represented something larger, the gap between public image and private reality, the consequences of treating relationships like strategic assets. By evening, the video had been viewed over 10,000 times and shared across dozens of platforms. The comments had evolved from simple timeline questions into broader discussions about trust, deception, and accountability in professional and personal relationships. Rory didn't come home that night. Monday arrived with unseasonable clarity, the kind of crisp morning that made everything appear sharper and more defined. I opened my shop at the usual time and found a small crowd gathered outside, not customers seeking computer repair services, but neighbors who recognized me from the video discussions. That's him, I heard someone whisper. The husband. Patricia Wells from the boutique next door approached with the careful steps of someone navigating potentially explosive social dynamics. Hale, I wanted to say I'm sorry about your situation, as we had no idea. Nothing to be sorry about, I replied, unlocking my door. Sometimes information comes to light that changes how we understand people and situations. Still, it must be difficult. Difficulty is temporary. Truth is permanent. Inside my shop, I found 17 new messages on the answering machine, mostly from reporters and bloggers who wanted to interview the man behind the viral video. I deleted them all without listening to the complete messages. The story was telling itself now, requiring no additional commentary from me. Frankie arrived at 9 with coffee and wide eyes. Boss, you're famous. My girlfriend says every restaurant worker in the city is talking about your wife and that banker guy. Apparently they were regulars at half a dozen places, always acting like they were celebrating something special. People like to celebrate, I said. But here's the thing. Jessica, my girlfriend, she says they were asking about private dining rooms and discreet seating arrangements. Like they were specifically trying to avoid being seen together in public. Interesting operational security for business meetings. That's what I thought. Frankie grinned. Also, someone posted photos from the Hotel Meridian parking garage. Guess whose cars were there every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months? The crowdsourced investigation was becoming more sophisticated, moving beyond social media analysis into physical surveillance and pattern recognition. People were treating it like a puzzle to be solved, contributing whatever information they could gather from their own observations and professional networks. At 10:30, Laura Vartan appeared in my doorway, looking like someone who hadn't slept much over the weekend. "We need to talk," she said. I gestured toward the customer seating area, 2 chairs salvaged from an office furniture liquidation sale. "About what?" "About Rory, about what you've done to her." "I haven't done anything to Rory. I've simply organized publicly available information in chronological sequence." "You've destroyed her career and her reputation." "Her career and reputation were built on false pretenses. I've just provided context that allows people to make informed decisions about their professional and personal relationships with her." Laura sat down heavily, clutching her purse like a shield. "She called me last night, crying. She's lost 3 clients, her boss is considering termination, and Evan won't return her calls. Sounds like natural consequences for unnatural behavior. She made a mistake, Hale. People make mistakes. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on the way home. A mistake is double booking a dinner reservation. What Rory did was conduct a systematic deception campaign while planning to abandon her marriage for financial advantage. So you decided to ruin her life? I decided to stop participating in her deception. Everything else is just market forces responding to accurate information." Laura stared at me for a long moment. "I never thought you could be this cruel." "I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. For the first time in months, everyone involved in this situation has access to the same factual information. That's not cruelty. That's transparency." She left without another word, probably to report back to Rory about my unrepentant attitude and unwillingness to suppress the video. I returned to my work, repairing a tablet whose owner had tried to fix a cracked screen with superglue. At lunch, I walked to Mitch's bar and found it busier than usual for a Monday afternoon. Conversations quieted as I entered, then resumed at lower volumes with occasional glances in my direction. "Hale," Mitch called out. "Usual spot's open." I claimed my corner booth and ordered a sandwich, listening to fragments of discussion from nearby tables. The video had become a neighborhood sensation, with people sharing additional observations and theories about Rory's activities. "I always wondered how she could afford those designer clothes on a PR salary," someone was saying. "Remember when she spoke at the business council about work-life balance? Turns out she knew a lot about balancing multiple relationships." My wife says she saw her at Nordstrom last month, trying on engagement rings, said she was planning a surprise for someone special. The information ecosystem was self-sustaining now, generating new discoveries and connections without any input from me. People were motivated by curiosity, justice, and the simple pleasure of solving puzzles. The truth was spreading because people wanted to share it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the parking garage on 5th Street. 1 hour, come alone. R." I finished my sandwich and walked back to my shop, considering Rory's request. The parking garage was public space with security cameras, making it relatively safe for confrontational conversations. She was probably hoping to negotiate some kind of settlement or ceasefire agreement. At 2 o'clock, I found her waiting on the 3rd level, leaning against her car like a film noir actress staging a dramatic scene. She'd dressed professionally, probably coming directly from damage control meetings with her boss and remaining clients. "Thank you for coming," she said. "What do you want, Rory?" I want my life back. Your life was built on deception. Maybe it's time to build a new one based on honesty. She pushed away from the car and moved closer, switching to her negotiation voice. I'll give you everything. The apartment, the savings, even my retirement accounts. Just make that video disappear. I can't make it disappear. It's been shared thousands of times across dozens of platforms. That's how information works in the digital age. Then make a new video. Explain that it was all a misunderstanding. Say you were wrong about the timeline or the context. But I wasn't wrong. Say you were wrong anyway. I studied her face, noting the desperation beneath her professional composure. You're asking me to lie to protect your reputation for honesty. I'm asking you to save my career. Your career was built on managing other people's reputations. How's that working out for you now? Her composure cracked slightly. This isn't just about me, Hale. Evan's wife is filing for divorce. His business partners are asking questions. You've destroyed multiple lives with your little revenge project. Evan's wife deserves to know the truth about her marriage. His business partners deserve to know the truth about his character. I've provided valuable information to people who needed it. You've ruined everything. I've revealed everything. There's a difference. She stared at me for a long moment, probably calculating whether tears or anger would be more effective. I loved you, Hale. I still love you. You loved the security I provided while you planned your exit strategy. That's not the same thing as loving me. We could start over. Forget about Evan, forget about the promotion, just focus on rebuilding our marriage. Based on what foundation? Trust? Honesty? Shared values? I shook my head. You spent 6 months proving that you don't understand any of those concepts. Then what do you want? What would it take for you to forgive me? I want you to sign the divorce papers and stop trying to manipulate people into ignoring your behavior. I want you to accept responsibility for your choices and their consequences. And if I don't, then you don't. Your cooperation isn't required for the divorce to proceed, and it's definitely not required for people to form their own opinions about your character based on publicly available information. She leaned against her car again, looking defeated. You've thought of everything, haven't you? I've planned appropriately for predictable contingencies. Just like fixing computers. Exactly like fixing computers. Identify the problem, isolate the corrupted components, implement a sustainable solution. And I'm the corrupted component? You're the component that was causing system failures through deceptive processes and resource misallocation. For the first time since I'd known her, Rory had no response. She stood there in the parking garage, surrounded by the wreckage of her carefully constructed public image, finally understanding that some problems couldn't be solved through strategic communication and reputation management. The divorce papers are on the kitchen counter, I said, walking toward the stairwell. Sign them or don't sign them. Either way, this marriage is over. I left her standing beside her car, probably still calculating angles and options that no longer existed. The video had done its work, spreading truth through networks she'd spent years building for entirely different purposes. Visibility, as she'd always said, was everything. The final confrontation came on Thursday evening, exactly 1 week after Lara had first shown me the evidence of Rory's systematic deception. I was closing my shop when I noticed 2 figures waiting across the street, Rory and Evan, standing close together in what appeared to be intense conversation. They crossed the street as I locked my door, approaching with the careful coordination of people who had rehearsed their presentation. Evan looked like he hadn't slept in days, his usual polished appearance replaced by wrinkled clothes and nervous energy. Rory maintained her professional composure, but I could see the strain around her eyes. We need to talk, Rory said. All 3 of us, Evan added, his voice carrying the aggressive confidence of someone accustomed to getting his way through intimidation. About what? About ending this harassment campaign you've been conducting, Evan said. About the damage you've done to innocent people through your vindictive little video project. I looked at him with genuine curiosity. Innocent people? Rory made a mistake, but that doesn't give you the right to destroy her career and reputation, and it certainly doesn't give you the right to interfere in my business relationships. Your business relationships? 3 of my clients have terminated their accounts after seeing that video. They're concerned about my judgment and professional discretion. His face flushed red with anger. You've cost me over $2 million in managed assets. I've provided accurate information about your personal conduct. Your clients drew their own conclusions about the implications for your professional reliability. Rory stepped forward, switching to her mediation voice. Hale, we understand you're hurt and angry. We understand you feel betrayed. But this public humiliation campaign has gone too far. Public humiliation? The video, The social media posts, the neighborhood gossip, you've turned our private business into community entertainment. I've organized publicly available information and allowed people to draw their own conclusions. Nothing private about social media check-ins and restaurant reviews. Evan moved closer, trying to use his height advantage for psychological pressure. We know you made that video. We know you distributed it specifically to damage our reputations. That's harassment, and it's actionable. Prove it. What? Prove I made the video. Prove I distributed it. Prove I've done anything other than exercise my legal right to divorce my unfaithful wife and share factual information about public figures in our community. He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. The video contained no identifying information about its creator, and the distribution had been automated through anonymous accounts. Even if they could prove my involvement, everything I'd done fell well within legal boundaries. We're prepared to make this worth your while, Rory said, pulling out an envelope. Financial compensation for your inconvenience, plus guaranteed confidentiality agreements. You want to pay me to pretend your affair never happened? We want to pay you to stop interfering in our lives and careers. I opened the envelope and found a check for $50,000, along with a legal document that would prohibit me from discussing their relationship or sharing any information about their personal conduct. Interesting approach, I said. Bribery with a non-disclosure agreement. It's not bribery, Evan said quickly. It's a settlement offer to resolve this dispute amicably. What dispute? I'm not disputing anything. I'm simply declining to participate in your deception any longer. The video needs to come down, Rory said. The social media discussions need to stop. The neighborhood gossip needs to end. I can't control what other people say or share. The video has been distributed across dozens of platforms by hundreds of users. Even if I wanted to suppress it, that's not technically feasible. Then make a new video, Evan suggested. Explain that the first one was based on incomplete information. Apologize for the misunderstanding. But there was no misunderstanding. The information was complete and accurate. Rory's professional composure finally cracked completely. What do you want, Hale? What will it take to end this nightmare? I want you to sign the divorce papers and accept responsibility for your choices. I want you to stop trying to manipulate people into ignoring your behavior. And then you'll make it stop? I'll stop participating in discussions about your personal conduct, but I can't control what other people do with information that's already public. Evan stepped forward again, his face twisted with anger. You self-righteous piece of trash. You think you're so much better than everyone else, sitting in your little repair shop fixing broken computers while real people build actual careers. Real people don't build careers on deception and adultery. You have no idea what real success looks like. You have no idea what it takes to compete at our level. Apparently, it takes systematic lying and betrayal of trust relationships. He raised his hand as if to strike me, then caught himself as he noticed the security camera mounted above my shop entrance. This isn't over. Actually, it is over. Your relationship with my wife is over. My marriage is over. Your ability to conduct your affair in secret is over. The only thing left is paperwork and consequences. Rory grabbed Evan's arm, pulling him away from the confrontation. Let's go. This isn't working. Sign the papers, Rory, I called after them. It's easier than fighting the inevitable. They walked away arguing in heated whispers, probably debating their next strategic move. But they were out of moves. The information was public, the consequences were unfolding naturally, and their reputations were adjusting to reflect accurate assessments of their character. I walked home to our loft and found the divorce papers still sitting on the kitchen counter, unsigned but no longer relevant. I'd file them with or without Rory's cooperation. The marriage was over regardless of her legal acknowledgement. My phone buzzed with a text from Frankie. Boss, check the neighborhood forum. Someone posted photos of your wife and that banker guy arguing outside your shop tonight. People are calling it the final episode of the drama. I checked the community discussion threads and found them buzzing with fresh commentary about the confrontation. Someone had indeed photographed Rory and Evan's visit, capturing their angry expressions and aggressive body language. The images were spreading rapidly, accompanied by speculation about their failed damage control efforts. Looks like they're getting desperate, one commenter observed. Desperate people make poor decisions, another replied. This whole situation has been a masterclass in how not to handle a reputation crisis, added a third. The conversation had evolved beyond simple gossip into a case study of accountability and consequences in the digital age. People were discussing the broader implications of the story, the importance of honesty in professional relationships, the risks of building careers on false pretenses, the power of information to correct market imbalances. I closed the discussion threads and poured myself a glass of wine, looking out at the city lights through our loft windows. Somewhere out there, Rory and Evan were probably planning their next move, still believing they could manipulate their way out of the consequences of their choices. But consequences, like information, had their own momentum. The truth was spreading because people valued it, shared it, acted on it. No amount of strategic communication could suppress facts that people needed to know. My phone rang once more. Rory's name appeared on the screen. "The papers are signed," she said without preamble. "I left them on the counter with my keys. I won't be coming back." "Where will you go?" "Evan's apartment, until we figure out our next steps." "Good luck with that." "Hale?" "Yes?" "I want you to know that I did love you, maybe not the way you deserved, but I did love you." "I know," I said. "But love without honesty isn't really love, it's just convenient fiction?" She hung up without responding. I found the signed papers on the counter along with her apartment keys and wedding ring. Everything legal and final, just like I'd planned. The marriage was officially over, the deception was publicly exposed, and the consequences were distributing themselves according to natural market forces. Outside our windows, the city continued its evening routine, unaware that one of its most visible residents had just discovered the difference between managing perception and managing reality. But that was fine. The city would adapt to accurate information about its residents, just like it adapted to everything else. I finished my wine and went to bed alone in the apartment that was now entirely mine. Tomorrow, I would file the divorce papers, update my legal status, and return to the simple business of fixing broken things for people who appreciated honest work. The video would continue spreading, carrying its message of accountability and transparency to new audiences. Rory and Evan would continue dealing with the professional and personal consequences of their choices. The neighborhood would eventually find new drama to discuss. But tonight, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully in a home free of deception, surrounded by the quiet satisfaction of problems solved and truth revealed. Visibility, as it turned out, really was everything.